Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I just finished it and we need to talk about it. Babel has officially been dethroned. This is my new favourite read of 2023. And I need to thank Vintage Books for advertising it so aggressively on their Instagram, because that's what made me cave in and pick it up. I wasn't sure at first that I would even like it, but you can always tell when I adore a book because the thing that I do is I slow down. Most readers I know do the exact opposite. If they like a book, they'll read it for hours on end until they've finished it overnight. That never made sense to me. A truly amazing book needs several days, weeks even, of engagement. It's like putting a nice wine in a decanter, or like tantric lovemaking. You don't appreciate the book as much unless you really take your time with it. And that's what I did with this, and I'm so much better for it. What you probably don't know about me is that I love playing video games, almost as much as I love reading books. In fact, I will often play games as a palate cleanser in between reading books. The reason I tell you all this is because Gabrielle Zevin has perfectly blended my two favourite things in this book, and I will now always be obsessed with it for that alone. The writing itself is so profound. We follow the relationship between Sadie and Sam over 25 years as they collaborate on several games together between the 90s and the 2000s. You know, they first met as children in hospital, aged 11 and 12, and by the end of the books, they're like rapidly approaching 40. It's one of those all-encompassing life novels. It's some combination of A Little Life and Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it has all the devastating consequences of real life, but also the creation of endless worlds to escape from it and to go and explore. As a Gen Z reader, I adored all the references to the golden age of game development. I was never around for games like Oregon Trail and Tamagotchis and all this other stuff. So it was exciting to see how formative those things were for people who then went on to develop the stuff that my age group would play decades later. What was so special in this book is Sam and Sadie's relationship. Platonic love between the opposite sex is so hard to come by in fiction. So it was compelling to see them come in and out of each other's lives without it ever having to turn romantic. They were just two people who enjoyed each other's company, and they were passionate about each other's ideas and their work ethic. So many of these fictional games they developed, I would definitely play in the real world, although I did tend to prefer Sadie's ideas to Sam's because they were typically more artistic, like Solution, Emily Blaster, Master of the Revels especially was my favourite. This is unintentional as well, but my hair is sort of giving Ishigo, the like main character of their big breakout game that they work on together. It's become a cliche statement when talking about media, but this book has it all. The characters are so cerebral and unfiltered in how they talk to one another. Sadie strikes up a relationship with her professor at MIT, but then she moves on before the relationship gets overly abusive. There's a rather fascinating discourse on the challenges of being biracial, something that was clearly a very personal topic from Zevin herself. In his childhood, Sam damages his foot in a car accident, and the book is very effective in its portrayal of chronic pain. At the end of the novel, as Sam and Sadie approach their late 30s, you see that sort of generational divide and how the gaming industry has now shifted to accommodate the new zeitgeist of a younger audience. This is a perfect book club choice because there are so many discussion points. Everyone can probably see themselves in at least one of the characters. But we haven't yet talked about my favourite character, Marx Watanabe, aka the Tamer of Horses. I mean, who doesn't love a reference to the Iliad? Not to mention all the Shakespeare. This book about video games has so many Shakespeare references, and I was eating it up. I think I only picked this book up in the first place because the title is literally a Macbeth reference. But back to Marx, he seems awesome, so lovable. His character arc, I saw it from miles away, but I do think that's intentional. The events of the book, while predictable, are similar in that sense to a video game. What I mean is you indulge in the experience itself without really caring about how, obvious certain events pan out. Chapter 7, the NPC, is the point where a lot of readers will just be sobbing. Like, I won't spoil things, but it's so poignant and really stands out as like one of the defining moments in the book. The other high point for me was chapter 9, Pioneers. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's a fascinating fever dream experience on what it's like to live in a simulation and how games are getting closer and closer to being an alternative to the human condition. If you've seen my other book reviews on TikTok, you'll notice that I don't rate books with stars. I use grades, and that is in fact a reference to video game tier rankings. I thought this was important to point out as I give this book an S+, where the S used in Japanese culture often represents something exemplary, as it would in a Super Smash Bros. Game. This book is awesome. It goes without saying. Pick it up. Come on. Give it a read. You won't regret it. It's amazing. Yeah, that's the review.